You kept missing this message, not because you were careless, but because your heart was not ready to hear something this heavy, my child, and God says today you must stop running from the signs because what is being revealed now is not meant to scare you but to wake you up, because the truth that is coming carries weight, responsibility, and urgency, and if you listen carefully it can still change everything. For months you felt something was off, small shifts you couldn't explain, moments where your wife's smile didn't reach her eyes, days where tiredness lingered longer than it should, and nights where silence spoke louder than words, yet you told yourself everything was fine because love sometimes teaches us denial before it teaches us courage. God says this message kept circling you because your soul already sensed what your mind refused to accept, that something inside her needed attention, care, and immediate awareness, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. This is not a punishment, and this is not fate being cruel, this is a call for responsibility, because love is not only about romance and promises, it is about standing up when fear tries to paralyze you. The shock you feel right now is not meant to destroy you, it is meant to sharpen you, because ignoring signs does not make them disappear, and delaying action does not make truth kinder. God says you are being asked to become present in a way you have never been before, to listen without dismissing, to observe without minimizing, and to act without delay, because your role in her life right now is not optional, it is essential. You may feel guilt rising, wondering how long this has been building, wondering if you missed moments that mattered, but hear this clearly, blame will not heal anyone, action will. This message comes now because there is still time to intervene, to support, to seek answers, to bring light where fear has been hiding, and God never sends urgency without also sending strength. Your wife may not have said everything out loud, not because she didn't trust you, but because sometimes the ones we love most don't want to become a burden, and that silence is exactly why this message could not be ignored anymore. God says love must now become protection, awareness, and courage, not panic, not denial, and not avoidance. You are not being told to fear the worst, you are being told to stop assuming the best without verification, because faith does not mean ignoring reality, faith means facing it with wisdom. This is a turning point where your presence, your attentiveness, and your decisions can alter the path ahead, and that is why this message chased you until you stopped. Do not scroll past this moment emotionally, do not numb yourself with distractions, because what you do next matters more than what you missed before. God says when truth arrives, it does not ask permission, it asks for action, and today you are being trusted with that responsibility. Stay grounded, stay alert, and stay loving, because awareness is the first step toward healing, and this message did not reach you by accident. God says now that you have stopped, now that you are finally listening, breathe, because panic is not your assignment, presence is, and fear is not your weapon, love is, and the reason this message feels heavy is because it carries responsibility, not doom. And when responsibility is accepted with courage, miracles begin to unfold in silent ways you cannot yet see. You were chosen to hear this because your heart has the capacity to stay steady when everything inside wants to collapse, and right now your calm is more powerful than your worry, your awareness is more valuable than your fear, and your steady presence is more healing than any words you could speak. God says your wife's soul is stronger than you realize, and your connection with her is deeper than circumstance, and this moment is not here to separate you, but to bind you more closely than ever before. There will be days when exhaustion whispers that you are not enough, that you are late, that you have failed, but God says do not agree with those lies, because love does not measure itself by perfection, it reveals itself through consistency, patience, and quiet courage. Your role now is to become her shelter, her calm, her grounding force when uncertainty shakes her inner world, and you do not have to have all the answers, you only need to remain present, because presence itself becomes medicine when offered with sincerity. There will be moments where silence will speak louder than reassurance, moments where holding her hand will matter more than giving advice, moments where simply staying beside her will become the greatest prayer you can offer, and God says in those moments you will feel something sacred unfolding between you, something deeper than words, something that heals both of you at the same time. Do not let fear make you distant, do not let confusion make you cold, and do not let helplessness make you withdraw, because love grows strongest when it is tested, and souls recognize each other most clearly in difficult seasons. God says every challenge carries hidden instruction, and this one is teaching you how to love beyond comfort, beyond convenience, and beyond expectation, and when you love at that level, transformation becomes inevitable. There will be small signs of hope, gentle moments of strength, subtle shifts that remind you that resilience is already alive within her, and when you notice them, nurture them, because hope grows where attention flows. God says do not borrow tomorrow's worries, because today already holds enough for you to carry, and when tomorrow arrives, it will bring with it new strength, new clarity, and new grace. You are not meant to walk this path alone, and you are not meant to carry everything in silence, and divine guidance will continue to appear through subtle signs, unexpected support, timely conversations, and inner nudges that feel gentle but firm. Trust those nudges, because they are not random, they are protection in motion. There will be times when your heart trembles in private, moments where tears threaten to fall when no one is watching, and God says those tears are not weakness, they are release, and release creates space for renewed strength. Let yourself feel, but do not let fear settle, because fear paralyzes while faith mobilizes, and faith here does not mean blind optimism, it means steady commitment to love through uncertainty. Every act of care you show, every moment of patience you offer, every small reassurance you give becomes part of a larger healing field surrounding her, and though you may not see immediate change, your presence is quietly shaping her inner world in ways that cannot be measured. God says the bond between you is being refined, not broken, deepened, not diminished, and what emerges from this season will be a connection anchored in gratitude, maturity, and unshakable understanding. One day you will look back and realize that this moment, as painful as it felt, taught you how to love without conditions, without assumptions, and without hesitation. Until that day arrives, walk gently, speak kindly, listen deeply, and stay anchored in compassion, because the path ahead is not meant to be rushed, it is meant to be walked with intention. God says strength is not loud, it is steady, and your steadiness now becomes her refuge. When uncertainty clouds your thoughts, return to presence, when fear tightens your chest, return to breath, when confusion overwhelms your mind, return to love, because love is the only force that remains constant when everything else feels unstable. You are not here to fix everything, you are here to stand faithfully beside her, and that alone carries transformative power. Divine protection surrounds your home, unseen support flows through your days, and gentle guidance continues to unfold with every step you take in awareness. Trust the timing, honor the process, and remember that even in the darkest hours, unseen light is already working behind the scenes. God says your courage today becomes your testimony tomorrow, and your faith in action becomes your healing story, and this journey, though challenging, will one day reveal how deeply loved, guided, and protected you truly were all along. God says as this journey continues, remember that healing is not always loud and instant, sometimes it arrives quietly through patience, routine, care, and unwavering presence. And the reason you were chosen for this season is because your heart knows how to stay when things become uncomfortable, when answers are unclear, and when strength must be built day by day instead of received all at once. There will be mornings when everything feels almost normal, when laughter returns briefly, when hope feels light again, and there will be evenings when worry creeps in without warning, when silence feels heavier than words, and God says do not judge either moment, because both are part of the same sacred process unfolding around you. You are learning how to love without certainty, how to protect without controlling, how to support without losing yourself, and these lessons are shaping you into a version of yourself that carries deeper wisdom, deeper empathy, and deeper faith than before. God says your consistency matters more than your intensity, your steadiness more than your speeches, and your willingness to remain present more than your ability to fix everything, because real strength is built in repetition, not in dramatic gestures. Each day you choose patience over panic, listening over assumptions, compassion over frustration. You are quietly changing the emotional atmosphere around your wife, creating a space where her spirit can breathe, where courage can settle, and where hope can grow roots instead of fading. There will be moments when you feel invisible, when your efforts seem unnoticed, when exhaustion whispers that nothing is changing, and God says those are the moments where your faith is working the hardest, because unseen work always precedes visible transformation. You are not failing because you feel tired, you are not weak because you feel afraid, and you are not unprepared because you don't have every answer, because love does not demand certainty, it only asks for commitment. God says be gentle with yourself, because this path was never meant to be walked with perfection, it was meant to be walked with sincerity, and sincerity always opens doors that force cannot. You will notice that over time your conversations change, your priorities shift, and small things that once felt urgent lose their grip, and this is not loss, this is alignment, because when truth enters your life, it reorganizes what truly matters. God says do not isolate yourself emotionally, even if you feel you must appear strong, because strength multiplies when shared wisely, and support appears when vulnerability invites it. There are people, moments, and resources that will arrive exactly when needed, and they will feel strangely timely, as if placed deliberately in your path, because divine timing often looks like coincidence until you look back and see the pattern. Your wife's courage will surprise you, her resilience will teach you, and her quiet determination will remind you why your bond exists beyond surface-level comfort, and in those moments you will feel a renewed sense of purpose, not just as a partner, but as a guardian of peace within your shared life. God says your words now carry more power than before, so choose them carefully, speak life instead of fear, reassurance instead of doubt, and presence instead of pressure, because every word you offer shapes the emotional climate she lives within. Even silence, when offered with compassion, becomes a form of communication, a signal that she is not alone, that she does not need to perform strength to deserve love. There will be times when progress feels slow, when waiting tests your patience, and God says waiting is not wasted time, it is preparation in disguise, because patience trains the soul to remain grounded when outcomes are uncertain. You are learning to trust process over outcome, effort over control, and faith over prediction, and these shifts are quietly fortifying your inner world. God says remember to care for your own spirit as well, because a depleted heart cannot pour endlessly, and rest is not abandonment, it is maintenance, and when you honor your limits, you model healthy strength rather than silent burnout. Every small act of care you extend, every moment of calm you protect, every fear you choose not to feed becomes a brick in the foundation of resilience you are building together. One day you will realize that this season taught you how to show up fully, not just when things are easy, but when they require courage, patience, and endurance, and that realization will change how you love forever. God says keep walking, even when clarity feels distant, because movement itself invites guidance, and stillness paired with intention creates space for wisdom to surface. You are not behind, you are not abandoned, and you are not walking this path without support, because unseen strength surrounds you, reinforcing you at moments when your own feels thin. Trust the quiet progress, honor the small victories, and stay anchored in compassion, because love expressed consistently becomes a force stronger than fear. God says this journey is shaping a deeper bond, a steadier faith, and a more resilient heart than you imagined possible, and when you look back, you will understand why this message could no longer be missed. Because it arrived exactly when you were ready to carry it with courage, God says as the days unfold, understand that endurance is built quietly, not in sudden bursts of bravery, and the reason your soul feels stretched right now is because it is expanding to hold a deeper kind of love, one that does not flinch at uncertainty and does not retreat when answers take time to appear. There will be moments when routines feel repetitive, when progress seems invisible, and when hope feels fragile, yet God says these ordinary moments are where extraordinary strength is being forged, because consistency trains the heart to remain steady when circumstances fluctuate. You are learning to anchor yourself in what you can control, your presence, your patience, your tone, your compassion, and by doing so you create a calm center that steadies everything around you. God says the atmosphere you cultivate at home matters more than you realize, because peace is contagious, reassurance is transferable, and calm becomes a shared language when fear threatens to take over. You may notice that your awareness has sharpened, that you listen more closely, that you notice subtle changes, that you respond with intention rather than impulse, and this is growth, not burden, because wisdom often arrives disguised as responsibility. There will be conversations that require honesty without heaviness, encouragement without pressure, and reassurance without false certainty, and God says your heart already knows how to balance these when you slow down and trust it. Do not underestimate the power of small rituals, shared meals, gentle check-ins, quiet walks, unspoken understanding, because these become anchors that stabilize the emotional landscape when external factors feel unpredictable. God says courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act with care even when fear whispers loudly, and every day you choose compassion over panic, you weaken fear's influence and strengthen love's presence. You may find that your priorities are rearranging themselves, that trivial worries lose importance, that time feels more precious, and this is not loss, it is clarity, because clarity refines what truly deserves your energy. God says there will be people who offer advice that feels overwhelming, opinions that add noise, and expectations that do not align with your reality, and you are allowed to filter what you receive, because protecting your emotional space is part of protecting those you love. Learn to trust your discernment, because it has been sharpened by experience and guided by intention. There will be days when strength feels abundant and days when it feels thin, and God says neither defines you, because resilience is measured by return, not by constancy, and every time you return to presence after doubt, you reinforce your inner stability. You are allowed to rest without guilt, to pause without apology, and to recharge without explanation, because sustainability matters more than speed. God says tending to your own well-being is not selfish, it is strategic, because a nourished heart sustains others more effectively than an exhausted one. As you continue, you may notice subtle shifts in perspective, a deeper gratitude for simple moments, a quieter appreciation for connection, and a stronger resolve to show up fully where you are, and these shifts are signs that growth is taking root beneath the surface. God says even when outcomes remain uncertain, your commitment to love with integrity is already a victory, because integrity anchors you when external validation is absent. You are not required to predict the future, you are only required to meet the present with honesty and care, and that is enough. There will be times when silence feels necessary, when words fall short, and God says silence offered with empathy is not emptiness, it is support, because it communicates acceptance without demand. You will learn that reassurance does not always come from promises, it comes from reliability, from being there consistently, from following through on small commitments that signal safety. God says every steady step you take builds trust, not just in you, but in the process unfolding around you. You may encounter moments of doubt that question your strength, your decisions, your readiness, and God says answer those doubts with evidence, with the proof of every day you chose to stay, to care, to remain engaged even when it was difficult. Evidence quiets fear more effectively than argument. As time passes, you will recognize that this season is teaching you how to lead with compassion, how to respond instead of react, and how to hold space for another's experience without losing your own grounding, and these lessons will echo through every relationship you touch in the future. God says do not rush the meaning of this journey, because understanding ripens with time, and clarity arrives when patience has done its work. Keep honoring the small wins, the moments of calm, the shared smiles, the quiet resilience that carries you forward day by day. You are not walking blindly, you are walking attentively, and attention transforms uncertainty into purpose. God says unseen support continues to surround you, reinforcing you when your own strength feels stretched, and gentle guidance keeps appearing as timely insights, steady intuition, and a growing sense of inner steadiness. Trust that steadiness, because it is the signal that you are aligned with what matters most. Continue to choose presence, continue to choose kindness, continue to choose patience, because these choices compound, and over time they create a foundation strong enough to support whatever comes next. God says your willingness to stay engaged, to remain compassionate, and to lead with love is already shaping a future grounded in resilience and gratitude, and one day you will look back and see how every quiet decision you made in uncertainty became a testament to the depth of your character and the strength of your bond. God says as you keep moving forward, understand that faith matures when it is practiced in ordinary moments, not just declared in extraordinary ones, and the reason your heart feels heavier yet steadier at the same time is because it is learning how to hold love and uncertainty together without letting either destroy the other. There will be stretches where nothing dramatic happens, where days blend into each other, where progress feels subtle, and God says do not underestimate these seasons, because stability is built there, patience is refined there, and quiet resilience takes root there. You are discovering that strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes it simply shows up again the next day, willing to care, willing to listen, willing to stay present even when clarity has not yet arrived. God says your ability to remain kind when tired, gentle when worried, and attentive when distracted is shaping a deeper layer of character within you, one that cannot be shaken easily by circumstances. You may notice that your inner dialogue is changing, that fear no longer dominates every thought, that hope appears more grounded, and that acceptance replaces resistance, and this shift is significant, because acceptance creates space for wise action rather than reactive panic. God says you are learning how to trust the unfolding without surrendering responsibility, how to stay hopeful without becoming careless, and how to be realistic without becoming cold, and this balance is rare and powerful. There will be moments when you question whether your efforts matter, whether your presence is truly making a difference, and God says impact is often invisible in real time, because the most meaningful changes happen beneath the surface long before they are seen outwardly. Every calm response you choose, every moment you slow down instead of rushing, every time you prioritize connection over distraction, you are reinforcing a sense of safety that strengthens the bond you share. God says safety is the foundation upon which resilience is built, and resilience is what carries people through seasons they never imagined facing. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed at times, to admit uncertainty, to seek reassurance, because acknowledging your humanity does not weaken your faith, it deepens it. God says there is wisdom in pacing yourself, in setting gentle boundaries, in protecting moments of rest, because endurance requires sustainability, not constant intensity. You may find that your understanding of love is evolving, that it now includes patience, sacrifice, humility, and attentiveness in ways it never did before, and this evolution is not loss, it is growth, because love that has been tested becomes more authentic, more grounded, and more enduring. God says be mindful of how you speak to yourself in private moments, because self-compassion fuels perseverance, and harsh self-judgment drains it. Replace criticism with acknowledgement, replace blame with learning, and replace fear with intention, because intention directs energy more effectively than worry ever could. There will be days when emotions surface unexpectedly, when memories resurface, when uncertainty tightens your chest, and God says meet those moments with gentleness rather than resistance, because what is allowed to pass does not linger as long as what is suppressed. You are not meant to carry everything alone, and discerning when to lean on trusted support is part of strength, not a sign of failure. God says guidance continues to arrive through subtle cues, inner clarity, timely conversations, and moments of insight that feel quietly reassuring, and when you notice them, honor them, because awareness amplifies guidance. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are seeing enough to take the next steady step, and that is all that is required of you right now. God says commitment is proven through consistency, not perfection, and your willingness to show up day after day, even when motivation fluctuates, is building a foundation that can withstand uncertainty. Over time, You will recognize that this season refined your priorities, strengthened your patience, and clarified what truly matters, and that clarity will serve you long after this chapter has passed. God says remain attentive to moments of gratitude, however small, because gratitude stabilizes the heart and anchors hope in reality rather than wishful thinking. Notice the shared laughter, the quiet understanding, the moments of calm that arrive unexpectedly, because these are signs that peace is still present, even amid challenge. You are learning that peace does not require perfect conditions, it requires intentional presence, and that realization changes everything. God says continue to choose patience over haste, listening over assumptions, and compassion over frustration, because these choices compound over time, shaping outcomes in ways you cannot yet predict. When doubts arise, return to what you know, your values, your commitment, your capacity to care, because these remain steady even when circumstances fluctuate. You are not behind, you are not failing, and you are not unprepared, because growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. God says trust that the steadiness you are cultivating now will carry you through whatever unfolds next, and that the love you are practicing in uncertainty is already strengthening the bond you share in ways that will become clear in time. Keep moving forward with intention, stay grounded in compassion, and remember that endurance paired with love becomes a force that quietly reshapes the future, one steady step at a time. God says as this chapter stretches forward, remember that real transformation rarely announces itself with certainty, it reveals itself through steady alignment, through choices that feel small but compound over time, and through a calm resolve that refuses to be shaken by every passing fear. You are learning to hold space without demanding outcomes, to offer care without controlling results, and this maturity is quietly reshaping how you move through every moment. There will be days when clarity feels closer, when confidence steadies your steps, and there will be days when questions resurface, when doubt tests your resolve, and God says neither cancels the other, because growth is not linear, it is layered, and every layer strengthens the core beneath it. You may notice that you are responding differently now, pausing before reacting, listening before speaking, choosing softness where you once chose urgency, and this shift is not weakness, it is mastery, because mastery is the ability to remain grounded when emotions surge. God says your steadiness is becoming a signal, a quiet reassurance that communicates safety without explanation, and safety allows courage to rise naturally rather than being forced. There will be moments when you feel the weight of responsibility settle heavily on your shoulders, and God says remember that responsibility shared with love feels lighter than responsibility carried with fear, because love distributes the load across patience, compassion, and trust. You are not meant to predict every turn, you are meant to meet each turn with integrity, and integrity keeps you aligned even when the path curves unexpectedly. God says be attentive to how you celebrate small victories, the peaceful morning, the honest conversation, the gentle smile, because recognition reinforces resilience, and resilience sustains momentum. You may feel pressure from outside voices urging speed, certainty, or conclusions, and God says you are allowed to move at the pace that preserves your peace, because peace is not laziness, it is clarity. There will be times when uncertainty tempts you to overthink, to replay scenarios, to imagine outcomes, and God says return to the present, because presence is where your power resides. Power does not live in speculation, it lives in the next kind action, the next patient response, the next moment of grounded care. You are learning to distinguish between what requires your attention and what merely demands your anxiety, and this discernment protects your energy and sharpens your focus. God says protect your inner quiet, because from quiet comes wisdom, and from wisdom comes right timing. You may notice that your empathy has deepened, that you understand silence differently, that you respect pauses rather than rushing to fill them, and this understanding is creating space for authenticity to breathe. God says authenticity invites trust, and trust strengthens bonds more than reassurance ever could. There will be days when emotions ebb and flow unpredictably, and God says allow them to pass without judgment, because emotions are information, not instructions, and when you listen without obeying fear. Clarity follows. You are becoming more patient with process, more compassionate with imperfection, and more confident in your ability to adapt, and these qualities are the scaffolding of enduring strength. God says remember to anchor yourself in routines that nourish you, moments that restore you, and practices that steady you, because endurance requires replenishment. You are not meant to give endlessly without receiving, and receiving does not always come as answers, it often comes as calm, as insight, as a renewed sense of direction that arrives quietly. God says trust the rhythm you are establishing, because rhythm sustains effort more effectively than bursts of intensity. There will be moments when you question whether your calm is enough, whether your patience is sufficient, and God says calm does not negate action, it guides it, and patience does not delay progress, it directs it wisely. You are learning that strength expressed gently lasts longer than strength expressed forcefully, and this lesson will serve you far beyond this season. God says keep choosing compassion when it would be easier to withdraw, keep choosing listening when it would be easier to assume, keep choosing presence when it would be easier to distract yourself, because these choices build a future grounded in trust. Over time, you will recognize how your steadiness influenced outcomes in ways you could not see at the moment, how your restraint prevented unnecessary strain, and how your kindness preserved connection. God says continue to walk with intention, honoring each step without demanding immediate clarity, because clarity often arrives after commitment, not before it. You are not lost, you are learning, and learning reshapes the path as you walk it. Stay attentive to the subtle confirmations that appear, the inner ease after a wise decision, the quiet assurance that follows a kind act, because these are markers that you are aligned. God says your journey is not defined by fear, it is refined by love, and love practiced consistently becomes a stabilizing force that carries you forward with grace. Keep trusting the process you are honoring, keep nurturing the peace you are protecting, and remember that every steady choice you make today is quietly shaping a tomorrow grounded in resilience, clarity, and enduring connection. God says as you keep choosing steadiness over speculation, notice how your inner world is becoming quieter even when circumstances remain uncertain, because quiet does not mean nothing is happening, it means alignment is taking place beneath the surface. You are learning to move with intention instead of impulse, to respond with wisdom instead of fear, and this shift is recalibrating the way energy flows through your days. There will be moments when impatience tries to rush you toward conclusions, when the mind seeks guarantees, and God says gently return to what you can anchor, your breath, your presence, your values, because anchors keep you from drifting when waves rise. You may feel a growing sense of responsibility paired with a surprising calm, and this pairing is not accidental, it is maturity forming, because maturity knows how to hold care without collapsing under it. God says keep honoring the simple disciplines that stabilize you, regular rest, honest conversations, mindful pauses, because discipline practiced softly sustains you longer than discipline enforced harshly. You will notice that your attention is sharpening, that you can sense when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to wait, and this discernment is becoming one of your greatest strengths. There will be days when reassurance feels easy and days when reassurance feels heavy, and God says do not measure your worth by how consistently confident you feel, measure it by how consistently kind you remain. Kindness is the compass that keeps you oriented when certainty fades. You are allowed to acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering hope, because hope grounded in reality is resilient, it bends without breaking. God says keep your expectations flexible and your intentions firm, because flexibility adapts to change while intention preserves direction. You may encounter moments when progress appears stalled, when patience is tested, and God says remember that growth often pauses on the surface while deep roots extend quietly below. Those roots will hold when winds come, and they are forming now through your steady choices. You are becoming more adept at recognizing what deserves your energy and what merely seeks your attention, and this skill protects your peace. God says peace is not passivity, it is clarity, and clarity enables wise action at the right time. There will be moments when compassion requires firmness, when boundaries become necessary, and God says boundaries drawn with love are acts of protection, not rejection. Protecting your emotional space allows you to show up fully where it matters most. You may notice that your conversations are more grounded, that you choose words with care, that you pause before responding, and this mindfulness is reshaping trust. Trust grows when actions align with words over time, and you are aligning more consistently now. God says do not underestimate the cumulative effect of showing up, day after day, because consistency builds credibility, and credibility builds safety. Safety invites openness, and openness allows healing conversations to unfold naturally. You will learn that reassurance does not always require answers, sometimes it requires reliability, being there when promised, following through on small commitments, honoring time and attention. God says these are the currencies of trust. There will be days when fatigue whispers that you should withdraw, that you have done enough, and God says listen to fatigue's need for rest, not to its suggestion to disengage. Rest restores your capacity to care, disengagement drains connection. You are learning the difference, and that awareness will serve you well. As time moves forward, you may find gratitude surfacing unexpectedly, gratitude for quiet moments, for shared understanding, for resilience you didn't know you had, and God says let gratitude settle, because gratitude steadies the heart and clarifies perspective. Perspective allows you to see challenges without being consumed by them. You will also notice that your self-talk is softening, that you are less harsh with yourself, more forgiving of human limits, and this compassion toward yourself increases your capacity to offer compassion outwardly. God says self-compassion is not indulgence, it is maintenance. You may receive guidance through subtle cues, a thought that arrives with calm certainty, a conversation that offers clarity, a moment of insight that feels quietly right, and God says trust these gentle signals, because guidance often whispers rather than shouts. There will be times when external noise grows louder, opinions multiply, advice conflicts, and God says return to your inner compass, because discernment refines wisdom when noise increases. You are allowed to choose the path that preserves your integrity and peace, even if it does not satisfy every expectation. God says integrity sustains you longer than approval. You are also learning that love expressed with patience outlasts love expressed with urgency, because patience creates space for truth to surface without pressure. Truth revealed gently is easier to receive and act upon. God says keep honoring the rhythm you are building, work balanced with rest. Care balanced with boundaries, hope balanced with realism, because balance prevents burnout. You will look back and recognize that this season taught you how to remain centered while navigating uncertainty, how to lead with empathy without losing yourself, and how to trust the unfolding without demanding immediate resolution. God says these lessons are transferable, they will strengthen every relationship and decision you touch. Continue to choose presence over prediction, compassion over control, and steadiness over speed, because these choices compound into resilience. When doubts arise, ground yourself in evidence, the days you stayed, the patience you practiced, the care you offered, because evidence quiets fear. You are not behind, you are progressing at a sustainable pace. God says keep walking with intention, honoring each step, and remember that alignment often feels quiet, but its impact is lasting. Every steady choice you make is shaping a future anchored in trust, clarity, and enduring connection, and that future is being built now, one calm decision at a time. God says as you reach this point, let your heart settle into the truth that you were never meant to carry certainty, you were meant to carry love, and love has already proven itself through every moment you chose presence over panic, patience over pressure, and compassion over control. This journey has quietly reshaped you, not by taking something away, but by revealing what was already within you. A steadiness that does not depend on outcomes, a courage that does not demand applause, and a faith that does not collapse when answers take time. You have learned how to stand without hardening, how to care without losing yourself, and how to remain open even when vulnerability felt risky, and these lessons are not temporary, they are permanent upgrades to your soul. God says notice how your awareness has deepened, how you sense when to move and when to pause, how you respond with intention instead of reacting from fear, because this awareness is alignment, and alignment always attracts the right next step. There were moments when you doubted yourself, moments when exhaustion whispered that you had reached your limit, and yet you stayed, you adjusted, you rested when needed, and you returned with kindness intact, and that return is proof of resilience. God says resilience is not about never falling, it is about choosing to rise without bitterness, without blame, and without closing your heart. As this chapter completes, understand that nothing was wasted, not the waiting, not the uncertainty, not the quiet days that felt uneventful, because each one strengthened your capacity to love with maturity and grace. You now know how to protect peace without avoiding responsibility, how to honor hope without denying reality, and how to trust the unfolding without demanding control, and this balance is wisdom. God says carry this wisdom forward, because it will guide you through future seasons, reminding you that steadiness outlasts urgency and presence outperforms prediction. There will be times ahead when life asks you to lean on what you learned here, when patience becomes necessary again, when compassion must lead the way, and you will recognize that you are prepared, not because you have all the answers, but because you have practiced staying grounded when answers were absent. God says let gratitude now anchor you, gratitude for growth you can feel even if you cannot fully explain it, gratitude for connection that deepened through honesty, and gratitude for strength that revealed itself quietly through consistency. Gratitude does not erase challenges, it reframes them, allowing you to see how far you have come instead of only how far you still want to go. You are no longer measuring progress by speed, but by alignment, and alignment always produces lasting results. God says as you move forward, keep choosing the practices that sustained you, listening deeply, resting intentionally, speaking kindly, and honoring your limits, because these are not coping mechanisms, they are foundations. You will notice that peace feels more accessible now, not because circumstances are perfect, but because your inner posture has changed, and posture determines perspective. From this place, you can face whatever comes next with clarity rather than fear, with steadiness rather than haste, and with love rather than avoidance. God says remember that you were never alone in this process, unseen support surrounded you, guidance appeared when you were ready to receive it, and strength met you at the exact moment it was required, and that same support continues as you step into what is next. Let this ending be a beginning marked by trust in yourself, trust in the wisdom you gained, and trust in the quiet guidance that has carried you this far. Walk forward knowing that your consistency mattered, your patience counted, and your love left an imprint that will endure beyond this moment. Stay anchored, stay compassionate, and stay present, because the peace you cultivated here will travel with you, shaping your future with resilience, clarity, and grace, and let your heart rest now in the knowing that you did not miss what mattered, you met it with courage when it arrived, and that is enough. Amen.